What are some of the dumbest situations rappers get into? Let's get right into it and start with number 5. Stitches, the responsible rapper. Phillip Katsabanis is a South Florida rapper better known as Stitches. He faced charges of drug and weapons possession after a confrontation in his Bay Harbor Island business. According to Stitches, 4 people broke into his business, a studio space with a bar attached, in August 2022. When they refused to leave, Stitches told his wife to hide in the back of the shop while he dealt with the situation. Stitches claimed to have seen 4 guys in his building, one carrying a rifle with a scope. He claims to have told the intruders to leave multiple times, but you know how it is with burglars, right? They never listen. So Stitches fired a couple warning shots, hoping it would help their listening skills, which it must have. When police arrived, the business was empty and there were no signs of a break-in. Body camera footage instead showed Stitches talking to the police about the 4 intruders in his building. He appeared slightly inebriated while he rambled about not having issues with anyone and mentioned he'd just bought a new house. He also told the cops he'd taken painkillers and some nose beers just before the break-in. The only evidence of illegal goings-on at Stitch's place that police found was powdered sugar that wasn't actually sugar. So Stitches himself got arrested. Although Bay Harbor Island police arrested Stitches for drug possession and discharging a firearm in public, they never turned in the stash of, let's call it, not powdered sugar to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement's Controlled Substance Lab. No one knows what happened to it. Miami-Dade prosecutors were forced to drop the charges after 30 days passed without the substance being submitted for testing. Stitches had reported that one of the supposed intruders had a rifle, and after warning the 4 men multiple times to leave, he fired 2 shots. As the initial report stated, the Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office also found that Stitches didn't discharge his weapon in public after all. He fired 2 rounds inside his own business to protect himself and his family, falling in line with Florida's stand your ground policy. Stitches, for his part, did say that he only used the amount of force necessary to protect his family and was cautious of his surroundings. The September 2022 incident wasn't Stitch's first time dealing with law enforcement. In January 2017, the then 21-year-old parked in a handicap spot in the most gangsta place he could, a Miami Whole Foods. Officers somehow recognized Stitches from previous arrests when they pulled him over and asked if he was armed. After confirming he wasn't, he tried to hand one of the officers a mind-altering cigarette as proof. They searched the car, finding a gun and ammunition under his seat. Stitches was confused, saying that he thought they wanted to know if he actually had a weapon on him rather than just having one in the car. We've all been there. During the search, cops also uncovered a mason jar filled with just under 40 grams and pills that weren't prescribed to him. Stitches was booked for having a concealed weapon and possession of, let's call it, some illegal things. If the rap game doesn't work out for him, Stitches is also a great clown name. Number 4. Scamming the IRS. Sameerah Marrel is a rapper from Detroit, and she went on the run after being charged with stealing over $5 million from the IRS and missing multiple court appearances. It always hurts to see the IRS get victimized. They go through a lot. Marrel worked with Noelle Brown, who performed with her as part of the female rap group Deuces Wild. Their name references poker, though, not number 2s. Oddly, their music is similar. Together, the Deuces participated in an elaborate tax scheme from 2013 to 2017 and claimed refunds and withholdings of over $13.6 million. In July 2021, they were charged with aggravated identity theft, conspiracy, and false claims. Shortly after they were charged, Marrel disappeared, missing meetings with her attorney and not attending pretrial services. Pretrial services called her a few days after they initially spoke, but couldn't reach her after that. It's always best to just ignore legal issues, right? Authorities visited the wig shop where Marrel claimed to work, but soon discovered that the business might have never existed. Neighboring businesses claimed the wig shop didn't even seem to be open. Although it was typically vacant, a nearby business owner claimed to see someone show up every few months. Pretrial services contacted Marrel's lawyer, who said her client planned on coming in, but again, Marrel never showed up. Less than a week later, Marrel's attorney was unable to reach her as well. Pretrial services went to her house, where they spoke to an unknown man who wouldn't provide information about her whereabouts, as unknown men are wont to do. The court revoked Marrel's bond and issued a new warrant for her arrest. The 2 women filed fraudulent tax returns for estate and trusts under business and filed returns for trusts under other people's identities without their consent. They involved others and made them pay the women money from the refunds they received. In total, they filed 100 122 returns, which the IRS linked together due to commonalities in the filings. Most had the same payer on 1099 forms, and some trust returns had the same return preparers as well. 106 of the returns were filed by paper and mailed to the IRS, with 69 coming from Michigan and 13 sent from Georgia. The returns filed electronically came from at least 4 IP addresses, and investigators later connected 2 of them to Marrel. Most of the refunds went to accounts opened by Marrel, including 2 checks for $60,000 for 2 businesses, Lucid Communications and Clean Sweep Properties. Marrel deposited a further $31,000 for a check made out to 4 Weaves Only Distributors Trust and another for Lucid Communications for $57,000. On top of that, Marrel put 20 trust tax refund checks into accounts under her name for $1.3 million. Those wild Deuces filed returns under other people's names and requested $2.5 million in refunds under one victim's name. The IRS paid out $462,601, which was deposited into an account under the woman's name, despite her never opening it. They set up trusts and filed tax returns under another victim's name, using her ID to open accounts, rent apartments, and make big purchases that included watches and jewelry. They filed 8 falsified refunds under the victim's name. They also requested $1.6 million in refunds from 2016 to 2017 using the same victim's information, but they were never paid out. Noelle Brown told one of her childhood best friends that Marrel could help her apply for a business grant. The friend gave Brown her social security number and date of birth, always smart, which she then passed on to Marrel. The friend received a check for $51,000 from the IRS, and Brown made her pay $28,975 to Clean Sweep Properties, Marrel's business. However, when she realized someone had filed a tax return under her name, she said she wasn't the one to sign it and that whoever did spelled her name wrong. She wouldn't have agreed to the plan if she'd known it involved filing a tax return and thought she was only applying for a grant. Brown referred many victims to Marrel, who also received millions of dollars from the scam. Authorities eventually tracked hide-and-seek champion Sameerah Marrel down in Memphis, Tennessee, and took her into custody. Her attorney no longer felt it was appropriate to represent her, as their relationship was broken down and couldn't be repaired. Ultimately, the IRS paid out $5.5 million to the women before uncovering their scheme. Marrel was facing a 10-year sentence prior to her failure to appear. Number 3. Megan and Tory. Grammy Award-winning hip-hop artist Megan Thee Stallion was shot by rapper Tory Lanez after an argument. The pair had a close friendship and would often drink and go to parties together. They also at one point had a romantic connection but weren't exclusive. Miss Thee Stallion sustained long-term nerve damage in her left foot following the assault and had to have surgery. As bad as it sounds though, this is good considering what normally happens to horses in these situations. She could have been Megan Thee Glue. Lanez tried to pay Megan $1 million to not tell the cops what happened. Following the incident, he kept apologizing and begged her to keep it quiet. Stallion invited Lanez to a pool party at Kylie Jenner's house alongside Kelsey Harris, her best friend and assistant at the time. Harris also had the world's biggest crush on Lanez. Stallion eventually decided it was time to giddy up on down to the homestead, but Lanez wanted to stay. Eventually, the trio got into an SUV with Stallion's bodyguard and drove away with Tory Lanez having a little tantrum. On the drive home, Lanez randomly confronted Megan and demanded that she come clean to Harris about their romantic relationship. As the discussion became heated, Megan got out of the car with the intent of walking home herself. But since she's one of the most famous rappers in the world, she decided that probably wasn't the best plan. Once they reached a quieter street, Megan got out of the car again and started to walk away. Lanez yelled something at her and she turned around to see he had a gun in his hand, which he was pointing at her feet. A witness claimed to see 2 women pulling each other's hair and hitting one another. He believed one of the girls fired the first shot, but added that he saw Lanez firing bullets everywhere. Stallion denied ever seeing Harris holding a gun that night, probably because Megan was punching her. The case caused Stallion a lot of physical and emotional pain and immense public and industry backlash. While in the witness box during the trial, she said she wished he'd killed her, which is a bit dramatic. After the attack, the Stallion was handcuffed to a gurney as she traveled in an ambulance to the hospital. A female officer asked her questions while she was still bleeding from her injuries. The shooting overshadowed her career for a while, and many men in the industry took Lanez's side. Megan claimed that she was turned into the story's villain, and the focus was more on who she slept with rather than what happened to her. The defense suggested Megan didn't know who shot her as she walked away in an attempt to throw Harris under the bus. But Megan, being the proud stallion she is, stood her ground and clarified that she had turned around before Lanez opened fire. When police asked her what happened to her feet, Megan said she'd walked on broken broken glass, Die Hard style. She later said she fibbed because snitching about who just shot you was frowned upon in the hip-hop community, and she was worried about the possibility of police brutality against Linez. She was worried about the guy who just shot her. It's that kind of attitude that probably got her invited to Kylie Jenner's pool party to begin with. If that was us, we would have added extra things to make sure police brutality was involved. Yeah, he just shot me. He also said he thought your uniform makes you look fat, but it probably wasn't the uniform's fault. Linez pleaded not guilty to assault with a semi-automatic firearm and carrying a concealed firearm in a vehicle, but in December 2022, the jury found him guilty of all charges. He faces at least 20 years in prison. But that pool party at Kylie Jenner's house must have been amazing, though. She probably has the best pizza and the coolest party hats and party favors. And playing Marco Polo in that pool? Man. Number 2. Phony Swag Man. Tunisian rapper Swag Man is known for using social media to flaunt his extreme wealth. Well, until he was imprisoned for fraud and money laundering. Swag Man, whose real name is Ateb Zabit, bragged about his lavish lifestyle on social media, sharing videos of himself doing smart things like burning money and showing off his expensive vehicles. But in July 2019, he was arrested for defrauding his fans. The scheme targeted fans whose ages ranged from 13 to 35. Many of them admired the rapper for his success, as he made it seem like his parents abandoned him at a young age, forcing him to live on the street. Swag offered fans the opportunity to get involved in lucrative investment opportunities and asked for their help with various humanitarian causes. He also asked them to pay his bail if he was arrested. Swag's victims, who were based in France, Tunisia, Algeria, and Canada, lost over $1.7 million in his schemes between 2019 and 2020. Tunisian authorities arrested Zabit after noticing suspicious money transfers in a Swiss bank account and defrauding his fans. A Tunis court sentenced him to 5 years in jail for fraud and money laundering, following accusations of extorting millions of dollars. Additionally, they fined him $36,000 and confiscated $6 million in Swiss francs and euros from his accounts, and he potentially faced 100 years in prison. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and his January 2022 appeal led to the judge dismissing the case. Swag also faced charges and accusations in France for his scams, but his arrest warrant was ultimately withdrawn as there wasn't sufficient evidence to indict him for fraud. Zabit quickly returned to social media and soon flaunted his wealth to all his followers again. He threatened to countersue anyone that accused him of fraud moving forward. The rapper originally lured his fans with his story about being orphaned and self-made until it became public that he wasn't an orphan and that his father lived in Tunisia. Zabit's victims trusted him with their money as his social media showed him living a luxurious lifestyle, and he had over 2 million followers on Facebook. One of his victims, Pierre, received a direct message from the rapper. An orphan himself, Pierre felt connected to Zabit when he claimed to be an orphan as well. Although he didn't know much about the rapper's music, he felt he could help him achieve his dream of buying back his grandmother's old house. He had $27,000 for the down payment, and Zabit offered to invest the money, claiming he'd be able to triple it in 3 weeks. With the understanding that Pierre would refund the money if there were any issues, Pierre met him in Paris and gave it to him in cash. However, something seemed off. The next day, Zabit was on a YouTube show where he pulled out an envelope of cash. Pierre recognized the purple elastic band around some of the bills and knew it was his money. The two communicated through social media, where Zabit convinced Pierre to pay an additional $10,000 to cover the taxes on the profits of his first payment. When the investigation into the matter was taking place, Pierre ran into Zabit at the police station, but his scammer claimed that they had never met before. It was not very swaggy of him. Unfortunately, Pierre was only one of many victims who shared similar stories. In 2018, an employee of Raiffeisen, the third largest Swiss bank, Stefano B., transferred $8.73 million out of multiple clients' accounts to a U.S. company and $5.7 million to a private account in Tunisia. The banker then fled to Panama to pick up his money in Bitcoin, a transaction he organized with an accomplice on the dark web. When one of his victims noticed the transfer, she alerted the bank, who blocked it. Stefano turned himself in to the Swiss consulate in Panama. The Tunisian account he sent some of the money to belonged to Zabit, and the U.S. account was Luxury Properties, a real estate company he managed with his girlfriend. Zabit denied ever doing business with Stefano B., despite his obvious involvement. In 2019, a Tunisian strategy consultant set up a website for Zabit's victims to bring their case to court in Tunisia, but in September 2021, he filed a complaint claiming the site was attempted blackmail. In March 2022, he filed another complaint against the prosecutor in Tunis for falsifying documents in a money laundering case. As it stands, Swag is free and currently touring. Number 1. Spot 'em, got 'em, cap 'em, charge 'em. Florida rapper Spot 'em, got 'em attempted to flee arrest on a jet ski, but Miami cops caught and arrested him. Spot 'em, got 'em, whose real name is Nehemiah Hardin, was speeding on his jet ski and weaving around anchored boats when a Miami police officer spotted him going too fast in a restricted speed zone. When the officer attempted to conduct a traffic stop, Gotham sped away while swerving around boats and coming close to a swimming area. We're not sure where he thought he was going to go in his attempt to evade police on a jet ski, but the dude has to maintain his street cred. The rapper was already on bond for his role in a July 2021 assault in a parking garage. Hardin was in the backseat of a Dodge Charger when he got into a confrontation with the parking attendant over an $80 parking fee. According to police reports, Gotham pointed a firearm with a laser at the attendant before fleeing the scene. U.S. Marshals issued an arrest warrant for him, prompting officers to enter his hotel room at the AC Hotel Miami Aventura while he was still lying in bed. He had a Roman Sugir Draco, a type of pistol that looks like an AK, at the side of his bed. In September 2021, Gotham was shot in his hip in his Dodge Charger as he drove down a Miami highway. A backseat passenger was also hit in both legs. Less than a year after the drive-by, Gotham tried to outrun police who spotted him while speeding on his jet ski. When they eventually got him, he was arrested and charged with reckless boat operation and fleeing law enforcement officers. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comments below who you think is the worst rapper today.